Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. Today is August 12th, 2020. We're going to be talking about two important topics today. First, we're going to be talking about how cannabidiol can be used to help people suffer less damage from contracting COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2, whatever you want to call it. You know, we talked about 25-hydroxy LL37, the effects of sun exposure and even vitamin D supplementation all the way back in March on this show before anybody talked about it. And once again, we're going to be bringing you some really exciting and breaking information about how to deal with some of the worst symptoms of this virus. Later in the show, we're going to expose some BS science. You know, science is for sale today. It's very sad. It used to be, there was a point in time where scientists had cordial discourse and discussed things without digging their heels into the sand and defending their positions beyond the scope of the science that they had available. And there has been an assault on red meat for many, many years now. We're finding out that it's really not bad if you're not eating processed foods. But a study was just commissioned by a company that makes fake meat to show that fake meat is better for you. And we're going to look at the science and we're going to discuss what really it shows and what it doesn't. We first have to thank our title sponsor, Legendary Foods. The website is eatlegendary.com. The code is SHR10 for 10% off everything there. If you're a low carb person, if managing how much protein you get and reducing the amount of sugar in your diet is important to you, but you still want to snack, you still want to feel like you're cheating, but you're not. The website is eatlegendary.com. The code is SHR10. They have a something called a tasty pastry, which looks like a Pop-Tart, tastes better than a Pop-Tart, but in fact has less than 1 gram of sugar, 9 grams of high quality, high leucine protein, and between 3 and 4 impact carbohydrates. You should get them for yourself and your kids, especially if your kids are getting ready to go back to school. And without further delay, I have my guest join me. And that is Dr. Baban. How you doing, Dr. Baban? And
I'm very good. Thank you so much.
And no one can see your mouth move, so raise your hand. Dr. Baban is in the back. Thank you. Yeah. And Dr. Jack Yu is in the front. You know, we have to get used to not being able to see people's mouths when they talk. And it's something that little nuances where when people talk on the show and they're wearing a mask, I have to say, hey, you know, no one knows it's you. You'll have to raise your hand and let us know. So anyway, this is an interesting study. The research looked at the effects of CBD, cannabidiol, on inflammatory process experienced during SARS-CoV-2. Why did you two look at this? Why did you look at this? What was any previous research that made you go, gee, this might be interesting. Let's check it out.
Sure. First, thank you again for having us. Since 2014, I hope I'm clear, my voice.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're perfect.
So since 2014, we have been working on the beneficial and potential of the CBD, cannabidiol, and medicinal cannabis in general in several disease models, and mainly inflammatory diseases, including tumor, ischemic kidney, and also chronic wound. So we had enough data and supporting evidence that CBD has potentially is a very good anti-inflammatory agent. And since COVID-19, the main problem is the basically hyperinflammation and is a kind of inflammatory diseases. So it was very plausible for us to, knowing the potential of CBD, we related it to the inflammatory responses in the COVID-19. And we thought it would be a very good idea to test it to see if we can see any beneficial effect.
Now, the really nice thing about this discussion is that CBD is available without prescription in just about every state in the United States today, which means that if it does have protective effects, it's not going to be controversial. You'll be able to go and buy it. You don't have to explain why you're buying it. So that's a really important distinction between the things that are being talked about in the mainstream media and this right now. So maybe who would like to answer this question? What's the pathway that CBD seems to suppress inflammation? Is it the traditional cyclooxygenase, COX-1, COX-2 suppression, or is there something else at work here that maybe looks more like omega-3s, which have a genetic switch to shut down inflammation?
I'll get it started, but again, thank you. But the answer to that question is that we don't really know. There are many potential steps, including the blocking of the ion channels, the interference of the signaling detecting the virus, all the way to the activation of releasing of these inflammatory mediators. We know at least half a dozen potential steps. But I'd like to just clarify one point. We did not use SARS-CoV-2, the active virus itself. We do not have biosafety level 3, a BSL 3 or 4. So what we did is we bypassed the viral infection. Let's say this is the virus. Once it gets into the cell, it releases its genetic material. During the duplication, it forms this double-strand construct. The body detects the double-strand RNA. So we use a synthetic double-strand RNA to induce lung inflammation and lung damage. Then we rescue it with CBD. And we did document the beneficial effect. I also want to emphasize that the initial phase of the viral entry is associated with massive suppression of body surveillance and defense, because we probably get this kind of microbial invasions all the time. So the virus evolved a very elaborate set of mechanisms to suppress our defense. So even though CBD is commercially available, it will be a very, very bad idea to give an anti-inflammatory at the time when the virus is already suppressing the body's response. It is during the second phase when all of a sudden you go from not able to respond to too much responses. So even though CBD is commercially available, the timing of its administration is critically important.
Okay, so let's address that. So is it safe to say in the initial stages where we already have a suppression of inflammation, you're probably asymptomatic at that time, but then you start to develop symptoms, and the symptoms could be difficulty breathing, the traditional pneumonia type symptoms. Would that be the time to introduce the CBD?
We believe so. We're currently using the real virus in collaboration with UGA. And your point is an excellent one. We will probably be looking at the beginning of the symptoms. That's when the symptoms such as fever, difficulty breathing, those are the signs that the body is kicking in the inflammatory reaction. And we will probably want to administer CBD to induce anti-inflammatory effect at that time. But the actual timing is critically important.
So lots of things have been shown since the whole discussion of cytokine storm, which is a word that we've used on this show for over a decade because it is apparent in several conditions. We now realize there are lots of things that can modulate cytokine and inflammatory responses, everything from melatonin to glutathione, in some cases, high dose liposomal vitamin C and intravenous vitamin C, and the list goes on and on and on. So my question to you is, do you see CBD becoming part of a stack that's administered to people to combat the tissue damaging effects of over-response of the immune system, or do you see it as a standalone? It can do the whole job by itself?
Well, that's an excellent question, actually. No, I don't think it can do it by itself. I mean, based on our findings. However, CBD is a excellent immune regulator. So, but it has, and it takes advantage of so many things in our body. One of them is already built in endocannabis system, which basically the CBD indirectly affects it, and it is widely spread in our body. So it is natural. It is basically it is a good immune regulator. But no, it needs a in harmony, and it needs a synergistic function really to be. It's not by itself. We're not able to do what we need really to do. But in conjunction and in association with other agents, yes, I think it is a very powerful. And again, I'd like to mention something. We have to differentiate between immune suppression and immune regulation. So CBD is an immune regulator. That's the good thing about it. It doesn't completely switch off the immune system. It basically brings it down to a adequate level, what we need.
So it can still respond. It's just not over responding.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was your study designed? Did you do this in a petri dish? Did you do it in rodents? What did you do?
No.
Yeah, we use animals. We use mice. The specific kind is black 6. So we give the double-stranded synthetic RNA on day 0 to induce this body's response to the we call the PAMP, PAMP, pathogen-associated molecular pattern. That's the signal that the body look for. So if you have that, you know that there's an infection going on. So after day 2, after the second dose, we start with the CBD. The animal received a total of 3 doses of the challenge, the poly-IC acid, which is a synthetic RNA. And then we give them the CBD by day 3 without the challenge. And then they go on for several days. After about a week, we check for the clinical signs, because when people have acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS, they cannot get enough oxygen into them, their bloodstreams. And you can detect that by using a pulse oximeter. So in our model, the oxygen saturation goes down by 10 percentage points, which for a human will be down to about 90%. In these mice, they're almost to 80. And the CDC cautions if your O2 saturation goes below 94%. And then they also have increase in cytokines. They have a lot of white cells and exudate in the lungs. And if you can imagine, you need to have a very thin membrane to allow the gas to exchange. These fluids build up in the air sacs, we call the alveoli, then the air exchange become problematic. That's basically pulmonary failure.
How did the rodents receive their therapeutic doses of CBD? And were they daily? Were they multiple times a day?
Once a day, at about 2 hours after the double-stranded RNA, we give them in their belly, called intraperitoneal.
Intraperitoneal, yeah.
Injection. We give them about 5 milligrams per kilogram weight.
So when you do intraperitoneal, you're bypassing the action of eating, and because you want a precise dose delivered, but it's still going into the stomach and being digested, just like something that would have been eaten, correct?
It's not in the stomach. In the stomach, you go through the digestive tract, and then everything is picked up and has to be filtered by the liver first. There's a first pass effect. Just like if you take Tylenol, it has to go through the liver, and the effect is a little different than if you give Tylenol by intravenous route. So we give IP, so it doesn't have to go through that liver. It's picked up, and it is it's more of a systemic dose rather than oral dose.
So is it similar to intravenous? So when you go intraperitoneal, you're bypassing digestion and thus bypassing the liver, but you're still putting it into the intestines, correct?
No.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood.
Inside this cavity called the peritoneal abdominal cavity. And we put that medicine into the space that's between the bowel and the abdominal wall.
Oh,
and then absorbed by the peritoneal membrane. Some will probably go through the liver, but the majority, this is almost equivalent to intravenous, but injecting into the tail vein requires a very, very tiny gauge needle and is much more challenging. And given IP is a much simpler, more straightforward method.
Was the what was the drug used an isolated CBD? Was it full spectrum? What exactly was it?
We used the isolated CBD. It was isolated, THC-free. We have a study going on. We are trying the broad spectrum and full spectrum CBD also. But the data we have and was published, we got good result with it, is isolate.
So it was free of the terpenes and all of the other active ingredients found in full spectrum. It was just the various CBD portions of the hemp, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's important because there's a lot of discussion out there today, as I'm sure you well know. You know, full spectrum is better. Isolates don't work, and so clearly this is interesting because you used an isolate and it's doing its job. That's very, very promising. A listener, a viewer says that his frustration is that there's no standardization out there on the consumer level. Batches from the same manufacturer seem to vary with the amount of CBD in them. So that's another thing that people need to consider. If you're listening to this, you're thinking, "Oh, great, my grandmother just got it. I'm going to go down to the store and buy this CBD product that's sitting on the shelf." You really have no way of quantifying the potency of that as compared to what was done in this laboratory, correct?
Absolutely. This is one of the frustration that we share. The cannabidiol research or the cannabis research in general has this problem because it's not, unless you get it from a very reputable or a firm that manufactures and sells a very high grade, almost pharmaceutical grade cannabidiol, you have no idea. And there are several reasons. One is the legal issues. Two is the questionable source that you cannot verify. and as a result, that the supply is often limited, and the purity is often questionable. So hopefully one day we will elevate this whole field, just like if you go buy a tablet of Tylenol, you know
Right.
you're getting acetaminophen. And the way we use this is as a pharmaceutical. So we know the purity, and we can have a repeatable quality from batch to batch. Otherwise, you cannot depend on that. You don't know what you're getting.
So, with that being the disclaimer, what was the dose given to the rodents?
It's 5 milligram per kg.
5 milligrams per kilogram.
Yes.
And I know there's a human equivalent formula, but do you know what the human equivalent formula would be, milligrams per kilogram?
It'd be about the same since it's per kilogram. So if you have a 100 kilogram person, that would be 500 milligram or 0.5 gram. It's a pretty hefty dose.
Yeah, that's a big dose, because most of the commercial CBD products, the entire bottle maybe only has 2,500 milligrams of CBD. So that's an expensive bottle, and this application would require that bottle to be good for 5 doses, and that's it. So yeah, that's a pretty big dose.
So one of the that we're testing right now is to do the pharmacokinetics to see what is the optimal dose, and what is of course, when we give it to people, we're not going to stick it in their peritoneal cavity. So we're looking at the most likely ways of administering this is probably through an inhaler, a puff like you do with Proventil. So,
well, and that would offer an opportunity, because we know that these cytokines, well, this virus prefers the lung tissue. We know that. And so by doing that, yeah, thank you. Are you shutting that off? We know that this virus prefers to reside in the lungs. And so that would cause a great opportunity to deliver this drug right to the lungs where the greatest concentration is. So that would be great.
We are working with 1 or 2 groups, hopefully, and when we start working with UGA, University of Georgia, that's the plan, basically, to do it through the inhaler.
That's brilliant. So when the dose was given, how soon after did you see the changes occur? The increase in blood ox, the changes in inflammatory response in the lungs, was it immediate or did it take days?
It took days.
It did. Yeah.
Yeah. It took, I think you have the.
Yeah. No, please take your time.
Okay.
We first start seeing effect at day 4.
So day 4. So after administering it continuously for 4 days, that's when you started to see it.
So it is for 2 doses of the CBD, because we gave 3 doses in total every other day. So day 4 would be 2 doses. One is day 2, and one is day 4, which is after the 2nd dose of the CBD. We saw a significant effect.
Now CBD is thought to have an effect on the central and peripheral nervous system. Did you observe anything else in the rodents that, like, were they less likely to move? Did you challenge them with the maze? Did you put males and females in the same cage? Did they do anything else that would identify that the CBD was also working in other ways?
The question of rodent behavior is a rather challenging one. We have built operant conditioning cages so that we can observe the behavior. One of our projects was looking at using cannabidiol for postoperative pain relief. But to measure pain is not that easy. And we use only male mice, so we couldn't tell other behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Just objectively, I think the full spectrum mice seem to be happier in other experiments compared to the more pure preparations of CBD.
Really?
So there are many compounds, the terpenes, and even just the cannabidiol family, cannabichrome. There's at least a dozen of these, but we don't have to really do that. We need an infrared cage to track how much they move, whether they stay in the center or the corner periphery of the cage. This will probably be part of the next study design.
Did it change eating habits? Did these rodents have ad libitum chow available? They ate when they wanted to, and did it change their consumption?
Well, after the infection, when we infected them, yes, very briefly, but after the administration of the CBD, they went back to normal very quickly, and they were eating and drinking well.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I've got lots more questions. We're talking with Dr. Babak, Baban, and Dr. Jack Yu from, you're with the University of Georgia, correct? I'm sorry, I think I may have.
That's the university.
Right. Okay. Thank you. And we're going to cover. So I've got more questions. I know the audience is very interested in this. These types of discussions are very promising because there's a lot of people out there who are looking for ways to not get damage from this virus. This virus permanently damages the lungs, especially when a ventilator is used, because the inflammation causes the lung tissue to be less pliable, less expansive, and then the ventilator forces the lungs to expand and contract. And a lot of people who ventilators were used, they will have lifelong problems. Now that even though the virus is gone, they'll have lifelong problems with breathing. So this is very, very interesting to me. We're going to take one quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Stay tuned. Select Savory Snacks Original Biltong is the healthier alternative to sugar-laden beef jerky. Their sugar-free biltong is seasoned and then air-dried for up to 2 weeks, providing you with one of the most tender and flavorful meat snacks that you've ever had. They also use a fattier cut of beef, which adds to the tenderness and gives their biltong even better flavor. Select Savory Snacks Original Biltong is the perfect snack or travel companion for your busy life. Get a free bottle of Ranch-tastic seasoning with every order. Free shipping on orders of $99 or more. Get yours today at selectsavory.com/SHR.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at Synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it. Planet Earth CBD offers a fast-acting transdermal patch that targets your aches and pains for the relief you need. Not only is the patch uniquely patented, but it is widely believed to provide larger quantities of available cannabinoids to the source of pain than other brands' subpar products. Effective for 24 to 48 hours. Experience the benefits of Planet Earth's high-quality transdermal patch. Manufactured by Next Generation Technology in an FDA-registered facility. This pressure-sensitive adhesive delivers rich hemp extract directly through the skin. Be it a neck ache or a headache, you can count on CBD to take off the edge. Go to planetearthcbd.com today to learn more.
Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor? Strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. Chronic stress leaves us tired, distracted, and physically vulnerable. Apollo Neuro is here to help you take control. Apollo Neuro is a new wearable that trains your nervous system to be more resilient to stress. Apollo's gentle vibrations use your sense of touch to help you recover from stress, going from fight or flight to rest and digest so you can relax, get to sleep, focus, and stay healthy. Developed by physicians and neuroscientists, Apollo Neuro has been tested in multiple clinical trials and is proven to improve heart rate variability, the key biometric of stress. Special offer for friends of Superhuman Radio. Try Apollo Neuro today and get 15% off your purchase at apolloneuro.com/superhuman. APOLLONEURO.com/superhuman. Over 11 million people in the U.S. have some form of retinal damage, also known as macular degeneration. This is expected to double to nearly 22 million by 2050. Artificial blue light, age, type 2 diabetes are all contributors. Doctors say there's no cure. ARMED is changing that opinion. In one clinical trial, 93% of patients had arrested or improved their condition. 54% reported lessening of glare, reduced dryness, and improved clarity and comfort. And 0% felt worse during treatment and no side effects. Take control of your macular degeneration or keep it from ever occurring. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com and get armed today.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. We have a question from a live viewer. Tony Picus is asking, what about THC? I recall skimming over an article about sativa and some anti-COVID benefits. Is there any evidence that THC may provide any of these benefits we see in CBD?
We didn't use THC, so we're in no position to answer that question.
And plus, THC is a lightning rod today. I mean, some states have some legalities, others it's still illegal. Doing research on something that's illegal in 60% of the country is probably futile because even if it does help, most people aren't going to be able to get it anyway. So it doesn't matter. So what about reversal? As I said going into the break, we know that some of the damage done to the lungs appears to be permanent. The lungs just can't recover. And as a result of that, people who survive COVID, some, not all, but some who survive COVID, they end up with lifelong lung problem. Did you see a reversal of the damage in the presence of the CBD?
For a short-term experiment, the answer is yes. But the ARDS, or the acute respiratory distress syndrome, has, by textbook, 3 phases, from exudative to proliferative to fibrotic, as you mentioned earlier, that you do have that fibrosis. So I think you never get back to the way you were. In surgery, we have one truism: a scar once made is made forever. We don't regenerate, we repair, we make scars. And the scars in the lungs, just like scars on the back of your hand, is not as pliable, is not the normal skin. So I think it's a matter of how hard you look. You will always find residual effect depending on the degree. Some have a much worse, others not as much, but the damage is very likely to be going on for a substantial amount of time.
So when we look at COVID or SARS-CoV-2, we know that earlier the treatment, the better the outcome. So perhaps in the future research that you do, we can look at introduction windows and see if, in fact, the sooner you start, the less lasting damage there is. Would you think that would be a possibility?
Yes.
Yeah, we want to fight the virus. We want the body's innate and adaptive immune arms to stand up and get rid of the virus. But we want to do so with the minimum amount of collateral damage, which is not an easy thing, because no matter which army wins the battlefield is destroyed.
Interesting. I like that. Yeah.
But I think the best time is to intervene before the massive release of, say, this thing called IL-1 beta, which is a very, very potent inflammatory mediator. The suppression of or the reestablishment of the regulation. This is a very finely tuned, complex system. And I think, as Dr. Baban said earlier, it's going to require a lot of adjustment. I don't think, as you said, one single medication is going to do that. It will require teams of physicians to really help the patient recover and return to the state of equilibrium.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr. Baban.
Exactly. You raised a very good point. The timing, and just to add to what Dr. Yu said, the timing is extremely important because immune system has three jobs in our body. It has to detect, attack, and clear. So we have to let the immune system to detect, attack, and then for the clearance, that is when this intervention with an agent like CBD can be very helpful to make this clearance meaningful and bring down that the tone of the attack and calms down and go back to the homeostatic, to the balance, basically immune balance. Yes.
So the fact that we have an endocannabinoid system and the fact that we actually have cannabidiol or cannabinoid receptors indicates to me that throughout evolution we were exposed to these plants. Perhaps we consume them the way we consume lettuce and broccoli today. At one time, we consumed them just the way the mitochondria became a co-conspirator of ours. You know, we know that the things that make up our tissue, they've come into our journey throughout evolution. So do you think that the fact that CBD works in the first place is because we have an endocannabinoid system, number one? And part two of that question is, are we ignoring the cannabinoid receptor and its importance in our daily life by not consuming plants that have CBD in them already?
Let me clarify. If you look at a worm, the C. elegans, they have the receptor as well, and they don't ever consume cannabidiol. So I think a more appropriate way to look at it is you have a key that will open a lock. And that regular key, the endogenous signaling system, is the endocannabinoid signaling system that the body ordinarily uses and is very, very ubiquitous. It just so happened that this plant, the cannabis plant, produces compound that can happen to open the same lock. But I don't think we are sitting here just waiting to eat this plant. The plant compound is sort of like a counterfeit US dollar bill. You take that fake dollar bill, you go to the store, yeah, you can fool them for some time, but it's not the real thing.
Right.
It does do the mimicry good enough. If you look at the structure, the real thing looks like it. But I don't think we were designed to eat the stuff, because if you do the genetic tracing, this material has been, the endocannabinoid signaling system has been around for a long time.
Okay.
Probably predates, way predates the appearance of cannabis sativa.
So so what you're basically saying is it's very similar to phytoestrogens in plant, that we have estrogen receptors, and there happens to be something in the plant world that also mimics that, but it didn't contribute to the fact that we have estrogen. I get it. That's good.
Absolutely.
So do we know which, there are two CBD receptors, correct? Cannabidiol 1 and 2, is that correct?
and CB2.
And do we know which receptor is responsible for the beneficial effects in dealing with the exacerbated inflammatory response from SARS-CoV-2?
So the CB1 and CB2 are the part of the endocannabis system, but they are not the direct receptor for CBD. So CB1, yes, it reacts with the THC. However, CBD does not react with either one really directly. However, there are other receptors like TRP1, like GPR55. Those are there are several receptors which are reacting to the CBD. But when CBD activates those receptors, that activation indirectly affects the CB2, and CB2 get activated on the immune system, basically. So indirectly, it affects the endocannabis system, but neither CB1 nor CB2 is the receptor for CB2.
That's
CB2.
Fascinating. That's very fascinating. That I would have never guessed that. So where in our body is cannabidiol made? As part of the endocannabinoid system, is it made in cells? Is it made in the liver? Is it made in random tissue? Do we know where these molecules are made?
The molecules that the body makes is not cannabidiol. It is called anandamide, which is a long-chain fatty acid, very similar to the prostaglandin, the inflammatory mediators. We don't make cannabidiol. The compound we make is called arachidonyl ethanolamide, which is similar. That's what the fake dollar comes in. We don't make CBD. We make the real thing, and the CBD looks like the real thing. There are several of these. We call them endocannabinoid, and anandamide is the big one, and also 2-AG is the other one. So
they're fatty acids. You're saying, is that what you said? They're fatty acids.
They're all long-chain fatty acids that are modified, and the interesting thing is that a lot of them have two hydroxyl, so they're diols, and they have a tail that has 5 carbon chains called a pentanyl tail.
Okay, so I don't want to veer too far off this, but since this may be in your wheelhouse of study, so if we in fact make these molecules, and in fact these molecules have a variety of beneficial effects in regulating immune response, affecting pain, affecting mood, does dietary fat intake play a role in supplying the donor substrates that become these long chain fatty acids that have this wonderful effect?
The answer is a qualified yes. If you chronically suppress fat intake, you are going to get into trouble after several months. Fat is a very important component, but the cell membranes are all made of fatty acid with a polar head. And so when you have a normal store of fatty acid, you will use that. But if you use all of them, then you will be in trouble because you will break down your own cells in the muscle, in the heart, in the liver to provide the necessary essential fatty acids. So absolutely, you need to have some fat. If you continuously don't have fat, if somebody is on the pure protein diet, months after months, you will get into protein poisoning, and you will start to break down the own body to produce the necessary essential long-chain fatty acid. So yes, you do need to have some fat intake. Absolutely.
I think Stefansson proved that in his after he lived with the Inuit, and then he tried to reproduce the diet, but he ate only lean. I think he was at Bellevue Hospital for that research, and he broke down. He became emotionally unstable. He felt sick. He felt weak. He started to lose muscle, and they couldn't figure it out. And then it was only when he started to incorporate fat back into his diet did he feel good again. And then he realized, oh, the Inuit, they eat a lot of fat along with, they don't eat any vegetables. They just eat meat and fat. So I see what you're saying. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. We're going to take our last commercial break. And when we come back, I want you to tell us what is the next step in your research, because I think this is very, very fascinating. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. Everybody wants to feel better, be healthier, and happier. If you don't sweat profusely on a regular basis, you won't feel as good as you could. Studies have shown the power of infrared sauna. Infrared penetrates 1 to 2 inches into the body. It helps those with back pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis, depression, and anxiety. Patients get relief from infrared sauna. The Good Health Sauna has been shown to be an exercise mimetic, conveying many of the same benefits as cardio. There are a lot of reasons people buy a Good Health Sauna, but the bottom line is you will be a much happier, healthier person by using the Good Health Sauna every day. You'll crave it. You'll love it, and it will be the best purchase you have ever made. Good Health Saunas provide commercial-grade saunas for in-home and commercial use, backed by the best lifetime warranty in the industry. Unmatched customer service and the best financing makes owning one easy and will fit any budget. Go to goodhealthsauna.com/superhumanradio to learn more and save 25% off. I love beef, and if you love beef, listen up. I've discovered the best tasting beef in the world, and that's not an exaggeration, at Piedmontese.com. The Piedmontese breed is famous from Italy for being lean and unbelievably tender, with half the fat and calories of traditional beef. Even typically tough cuts are tender when it comes from the Piedmontese cows. And for the first time ever, Piedmontese cows are being raised here in the USA. Get 2 free 10-ounce New York strips when you purchase $50 or more at Piedmontese.com with code SHR. Go to PIEDMONTESE.com and use code SHR today. You will never eat any other type of beef ever again.
Planet Earth CBD offers a fast-acting transdermal patch that targets your aches and pains for the relief you need. Not only is the patch uniquely patented, but it is widely believed to provide larger quantities of available cannabinoids to the source of pain than other brands' subpar products. Effective for 24 to 48 hours, experience the benefits of Planet Earth's high-quality transdermal patch. Manufactured by Next Generation Technology in an FDA-registered facility, this pressure-sensitive adhesive delivers rich hemp extract directly through the skin. Be it a neck ache or a headache, you can count on CBD to take off the edge. Go to planetearthcbd.com today to learn more. Unlock your potential with the best cognitive enhancement and anti-aging supplements on the market. PureNootropics.net goes the extra mile for the highest quality ingredients, third-party tested to make sure you only receive the best your money can buy. There's no better choice with their money-back guarantee and free shipping. Try their best-selling DHM. Dihydromyricetin prevents hangovers and helps deliver detox after a night of drinking. Get your DHM and other nootropics and longevity supplements from PureNootropics.net, the purest supplements around.
Are you still on the fence about Body Protection Complex BPC Oral from drseeds.com? Listen to Maggie Kuhn, one of the owners of the C-Bus Lifting Company gym in Columbus, Ohio.
I had been having some nagging tendon issues that weren't injuries, just things that were annoying. I'm 58 years old, so just older tendon kind of issues. For us powerlifters, we really don't stop training when we have just nagging issues. We just kind of keep pushing through. And I started the BPC. What I noticed was I was doing some heavy tricep stuff that would have killed me before when I had an elbow problem, and I was able to do those with literally no pain at all.
Go to drseeds.com, drseeds.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your bottle of BPC Body Protection Complex today. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000, or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. Go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon 1 banner ad today.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Welcome back. We're talking with Dr. Babak, Baban and Dr. Jack Yu. They are from the Medical College of Georgia at Augusta. We're talking about a recent paper that they published looking at the effects of CBD on the inflammatory response suffered by the lungs during SARS-CoV-2, or COVID-19. Clearly, there is some value to understanding what this molecule can do. Yes, fascinating interview. It really is. And I'll tell you what else is even more fascinating. So, you know, I'm not super intelligent about fats and fatty acids and stuff like that. But in fact, stearic acid and palmitic acid are both precursors to the fatty acids that you spoke of that have this marvelous effect on the endocannabinoid system. And obviously, those are two fats that are highly discouraged because they're saturated fats. And people are told, well, no, don't eat saturated fat, when in fact, there may be some value to saturated fat consumption. You never know. That debate is still going on. We're not going to get into that. So what does future research look like to you to help get a better understanding of the value of CBD, not just in this particular incidence of inflammatory lung, but other diseases, maybe even COPD? I see this maybe being something valuable in COPD. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'll get started. We're approaching this in the two pathways. One is more clinical. We want to put through IRBs using a randomized controlled trial to confirm that the observed effect in mice will happen in human as well. And that is a more prolonged, more involved process, obviously. But we are actively pursuing that. And then the other side is to try to understand more the mechanism. So there's a component that's looking for the scientific underpinning of this. And the other one is more like engineer. You just want to make sure it works. How it works is not as important as the fact that it works. Because literally thousands of people dying every day. So we want to hurry that process up with appropriate precaution. And then from the biology perspective, this is a fascinating process. So the first thing we need to do is to use the real virus. Since the real virus does not engage the mouse lung alveolar pneumocyte, so our collaborator is using a transgenic, a special genetically engineered mouse strain that has a human angiotensin converting enzyme type 2. So we're going to infect the transgenic ACE2 with the virus. Then we're going to go try to, at the initial phase after the infection, try to wake up the immune system and using an immune potentiator. And then once the hyper-inflammatory state start to look like it's going to happen before the cytokine storm, or even after the cytokine, during the cytokine storm, to rescue it with CBD. And there are other applications, as you mentioned. One would be to we have started that work even before the pandemic, is to use CBD as post-operative pain relief medicine. As you know, that there's a massive a narcotic overdose crisis, and just about every 7 minutes somebody dies of opiate overdose. So CBD is almost ideal. It relieves pain. It makes you want to move more, which is important because after surgery, if you don't move, you tend to have more complications. It increases your appetite. It's an orexin. It has ability to suppress nausea and vomiting. So that's one of the things that actually got us started looking at wound healing and effect of CBD. So we're very excited, and there are a lot of work to be done. And I'll give it to Dr. Babak.
And exactly, just to add a few words, as you mentioned, and as Dr. Yu mentioned, it is not only, I mean, yes, this is very important in high urgency for the COVID-19. However, the impact is larger than that, really. The other inflammatory diseases we have looked at it, ischemic kidney, we have used on the ischemia, we have used on the tumor models, and we are actively doing it. So those are the venues really we want to extend our research and continue our research on that. Yes, with CBD.
So Tyler Cypress says, but why not use full spectrum, which is often better as it contains terpenes and other parts of the plant that can also be helpful to the human body? Yeah, why aren't you using a full spectrum product? Why are you just focusing on a CBD isolate?
We are using the in our studies, ongoing study, we are using full spectrum and broad spectrum. We are comparing them. We started with isolate because when you do the research and looking for a mechanism, as you have less variables, it's easier for the basically find direction
and assign to this particular molecule this effect. Yeah.
So when we have the proof of concept, then yes, then we will extend it to the full spectrum, and then we have, because in full spectrum we have also to compare with each of those variables are important. So it's a very good point. We are doing it. We are comparing different form of the CBD, and in the future establish it. Absolutely.
What about boswellic acid? Andrew Scarborough, who's watching the show from the UK, he says, I like to use boswellic acid, similar effects and less expensive to get quality product. Does boswellic acid have similar effects as CBD?
I don't know.
Not aware of that compound at all.
No, we don't know. I mean, that's
interesting. Okay. All right. Well, look, I want to thank you for your research. I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking about it. It's valuable to get this information out into the public so people understand that there are other things out there that could help. This virus has hurt a lot of elderly people, especially, and they're the least likely to recover from it. So the sooner we can give them access to something that can assuage the damage from being done in the first place, the better it is. And again, I mean, I'm not suggesting, and you're not suggesting, that people go out and buy CBD and treat people who have COVID with it. At the same time, that's a personal decision. If somebody wants to do that, then God bless them. Let them do it. If it benefits them, great. One thing is for sure, CBD is generally regarded as safe now. Large doses don't seem to hurt people. So it's one of those things that it is available for people to consider, I think, and physicians too. Physicians could direct their patients to try this. They could. Thank you very much for being here today, both of you.
Thank
you. Thank you. Take care. Take care.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take one quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a study that claims that the Beyond Meat burger is better for you than beef. The study was done and published by Stanford Medicine. And interestingly enough, guess who funded the study? Beyond Meat. So we're going to dig into this in a second. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more Superhuman Radio. You've heard me talk about the chill pill on the show and how effective it is at helping people who suffer from social anxiety, or sometimes when you just want to take the edge off to a long, stressful day. Well, listen to this story from Dylan Goutreau.
Definitely takes anxiety away, which I have a long history of having. Started out at 2 milligrams a day of Xanax. That was at 8 years old. And so I stopped using benzos 3 years ago. Extremely difficult. Yeah, so I spent about 3 years trying to find anything and everything I could that would be healthy for me to help with anxiety. Because I'm talking, full out panic attack. The chill pill was the first thing that I found that actually in the middle of a panic attack I can take, and it definitely subsides.
Go to drseeds.com. That's DRSEEDS.com. Use coupon code SHR and save 20% off your first bottle of the chill pill. Check it out. I promise this is one supplement that delivers.
Quest Nutrition makes bars, cookies, chips, and pizzas out of complete dairy-based proteins. Our products minimize net carbs and sugar without sacrificing taste. Each delicious chocolate-flavored chip, cookie chunk, and crunchy crumble is custom made to maintain Quest macros. It's time to enjoy foods that work for you, not against you. It's time to enjoy your Quest.
Over 11 million people in the U.S. have some form of retinal damage, also known as macular degeneration. This is expected to double to nearly 22 million by 2050. Artificial blue light, age, type 2 diabetes are all contributors. Doctors say there's no cure. ARMED is changing that opinion. In one clinical trial, 93% of patients had arrested or improved their condition. 54% reported lessening of glare, reduced dryness, and improved clarity and comfort. And 0% felt worse during treatment and no side effects. Take control of your macular degeneration or keep it from ever occurring. Go to wisechoicemedicine.com and get armed today. Everybody wants to feel better, be healthier and happier. If you don't sweat profusely on a regular basis, you won't feel as good as you could. Studies have shown the power of infrared sauna. Infrared penetrates 1 to 2 inches into the body. It helps those with back pain, fibromyalgia, arthritis, depression, and anxiety. Patients get relief from infrared sauna. The Good Health Sauna has been shown to be an exercise mimetic, conveying many of the same benefits as cardio. There are a lot of reasons people buy a Good Health Sauna, but the bottom line is you will be a much happier, healthier person by using the Good Health Sauna every day. You'll crave it, you'll love it, and it will be the best purchase you have ever made. Good Health Saunas provide commercial-grade saunas for in-home and commercial use, backed by the best lifetime warranty in the industry. Unmatched customer service and the best financing makes owning one easy and will fit any budget. Go to goodhealthsauna.com/superhumanradio to learn more and save 25% off. If you suffer from digestive issues like gas, bloating, cramping, even when you're eating healthy, nutritious foods, then you could probably benefit from a high-quality enzyme. As you know, I'm a mega fan of Bioptimizers. They're one of the few supplement companies who I use religiously because their products work. I asked them for a great deal for my listeners, and they over-delivered. Right now, you can get a bottle of Masszyme for free. All you need to do is pay a small shipping fee, and there's no catch, no tricks, no forced continuity, nothing to cancel. They're so confident in their product that they offer a 365-day money-back guarantee. I'm positive you'll love the results. I strongly suggest you head over to their site to grab your free bottle before this offer runs out. Go to masszymes.com/SHR free. That's MASSZYMES.com/SHRFREE, all one word. You will automatically get access to your unique coupon code to claim your free bottle, and there's a limit, 1 per household.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. We've talked on the show quite a bit over the years about how science is for sale today. And it really is. You can find science and scientists who would come up with research to back your personal opinion, no matter what it is. Science has become more like religion than science. So it's no surprise to me that I saw this study. Elisa sent this to me. So this is from Stanford Medicine. Plant-based meats improve some cardiovascular risk factors compared to red meat. So let's talk about the study first of all. The study used a group of individuals, I think it was 30 altogether, who ate one way for 8 weeks and then ate another way for 8 weeks. And they looked at blood markers and stuff like that to assess the effects. Now, they talk about chopped meat, ground beef in the beginning of the article. But then throughout the article, they just refer to the subjects ate 2 meals a day of red meat or the Beyond Meat burgers. And they did that for 8 weeks, and then they switched and did the other thing. So if they were the group that ate Beyond Meat twice a day for 8 weeks, then they switched and they became the red meat eaters. They never said the type of red meat they were eating. Never. It's interesting to me. If you're claiming that Beyond Meat is better than chopped meat or ground beef, then shouldn't they all be eating ground beef? Some of them ate chicken. They did note that. But other than that, they just lumped everything in together as red meat. Now, this is a problem for me. This has been a problem for a long time. Whenever we talk about meat, studies always say red meat is bad for you. But then you find out that they consider bologna, hot dogs, processed meats, red meat. And they're not red meat. They're not. If anything, they're gray, actually. And red meat to me is steak, chopped meat, what else? Different cuts of steak and chopped meat. That's red meat. I mean, even pork is considered the other white meat. They try to differentiate themselves from red meat for a reason. So what they discovered were two things. And whether or not the research proves anything at all as far as cardiovascular risk, okay? Beyond Meat is loaded with lots of garbage, right? Beef is beef. That's it. That's it. It's just beef. Ground beef is beef. That's it. Beyond Meat has coconut oil in it, as the fat, has a variety of plant-based products, added sodium, it has fillers to add texture, blah, blah, blah. And while they're trying to focus on sodium, that the only thing that's really questionable about Beyond Beef or Beyond Meat is that it is has a lot of sodium in it, where beef doesn't. That's really not the real problem, let's be honest. So they made sure to point out that Beyond Meat had no say-so in the research. They gave the grant, and they didn't take part in designing the study. And that would make you feel good until you read this one part. Senior author, whose last name is Gardner, is a longtime vegetarian and a staunch proponent of eating whole foods with particular emphasis on vegetables. So the senior author is basically an anti-meat person. Of course, he doesn't need any oversight by the company to say, hey, we want the outcome to be this way. He's already in their camp. It's probably why they authorized him to do it. Let's be honest. No one is going to give money to a group without having a sense of whether or not the research is going to come out in favor for them. Because most legitimate groups who do research will say, you're giving us money to do this. Now we're going to publish this paper, whether it comes out good for you or not. And if you're a company whose stock is going through the roof, would you take a chance like that to have them go, well, there was no difference? Or, yeah, it wasn't any better than red meat? You're not. Come on. We're not fools, right? Follow the money. So red meat was what they were looking at. They didn't determine whether or not these were whole cuts of red meat, how the meat was processed. Was it grass-fed? Was it naturally raised? There's only two things that they looked at in this study. And the first one is a complete loser, in my opinion. It's TMAO. They said that TMAO was lower in the group that was eating the Beyond Meat product twice a day for 8 weeks. we know now that TMAO is not causative of heart disease. It seems to correlate. And there were two good studies a couple years ago that showed that depending on your microbiome, eating meat may produce TMAO or not. So TMAO is more an indicator that your gut is messed up than meat is causing problems. And so it's quite plausible that your messed up gut is what causes the heart disease over time. Or it could be that your messed up gut correlates with the crap food you eat day in and day out, which has nothing to do with meat. So TMAO is a very, very weak correlate. And everyone, and they even put it in the study. At this point, we cannot be sure that TMAO is a causal risk factor or just an association. They had to say that because that's what science says. But yet they put all their eggs in that car. Oh, it reduced TMAO. So that was the one thing that they said was proof that it was better for your heart. The other thing they said was there was a significantly significant but slight drop in LDL cholesterol in the group eating the Beyond Meat twice a day, as opposed to the quote unquote whatever red meat they were considering red meat. Again, LDL is not, we know now that cholesterol is not directly indicative of heart disease. Inflammation is. We also know that carbohydrates promote inflammation to a greater degree than fats or proteins. And there are no animal carbohydrates. There are no animals out there that have a high in carbs. It's all plant-based stuff that's high in carbs. There was one thing that surprised them. There was a modest drop in body weight in the 8 weeks that the guys and gals who ate the Beyond Meat versus the quote unquote red meat. But that doesn't mean anything. You and I know that. People have cancer. They lose massive amounts of weight. You think they want to lose that weight? No, most of it is muscle weight. So it's very plausible that the group for the 8 weeks that didn't get any meat, they lost muscle. If they would have done a DEXA scan, some sort of qualitative body composition analysis and said, and it was all body fat, then I'd say, wow, this is really interesting. That's interesting. But just losing 2 pounds over the course of the 8 weeks doesn't tell me anything. It could have been 2 pounds of valuable muscle. But see, this group doesn't put any value on muscle. They're like the mainstream. So be prepared. Be prepared for this study to start being discussed. Oh, Elisa said it was grass-fed. Are you saying that the meat was all grass-fed and was it all whole cuts of beef, Elisa? Please put that up there. But I come back to my point. TMAO is not indicative of heart disease. And all scientists agree that it's a weak correlate at this point in time. And we really don't know what it means. There is research out there that shows that your gut produces higher levels of TMAO, not just the consumption of meat. So if your gut is jacked up, that's where the TMAO is coming from. The other thing is losing 2 pounds of muscle isn't a good thing. And they needed to quantify that in this study. But lastly, always follow the money. The guy heading up the study, he's a vegetarian/vegan. He's completely anti-meat. So Beyond Meat is saying, well, we had no impetus. We didn't know how this was going to turn. You knew how it was going to turn out. You would not have funded this study if there was even a 1% chance that it was going to come back and say your product stunk. You know that. And anybody with a brain knows that. So I'm calling this science BS. I'd like to see a nonpartisan, a group that has no vested interest in this, head up by meat eaters to redo this research and find the same outcomes. That's what I'd like to see. But we won't see that because Beyond Meat won't fund that study. I guarantee it. So be prepared. You're going to start seeing this in the media very shortly. Beyond Meat reduces the risk of heart attack. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. That's it for today. And thank you for watching. Share the show. Please share the show. Always share the show. Help people learn more. and not become fools and preyed upon by what the mainstream message is. All right, we'll see you tomorrow with more Superhuman Radio. Thank you for watching today.